welcome. For folks joining us, we had a couple of last-minute steering group. We had a couple of steering group members that we knew couldn't attend, or one, and now we've had a couple who at the last minute can't. So we don't actually have a quorum, but we did want to hold and at least open up the meeting. So this is a meeting of the steering group. I'm Megan Roy. I'm the chair of the commission, sort of an ad hoc member of the steering group. Jennifer and Peter, you can introduce yourselves just for the record.
Sure, thanks. Jennifer Deck-Samuelson, chair of the Vermont State Board of Education.
Peter Conlon, chair of the House Education Committee and appointed by the House.
Awesome. So we didn't really have action to take today anyway. We were going to have a follow-up discussion about sort of what a revised charge to the legislature might look like. I'm happy to talk for a few minutes about that. My sense from the meeting is that the commission feels pretty strongly about continuing its work, had some thoughts about how to organize it. I do think it's useful to figure out a way to communicate that back to the legislature. If for no other reason than it becomes either a public record or it's just officially out there. I don't know if that needs to take the form of a request for a changed charge. So given what we have here, it's probably less of a work session. Should we put that on the agenda again on the 3rd? What do folks think?
I think we should.
Okay.
Even if it's just small tweaks, such as eliminating the need for legislation and instead revising the work product at the end, so that it allows that October deadline to be pushed at least into November.
Okay. Jennifer, does that seem to make sense?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Just making myself a note. And then, so discussion item. Okay. I also was wondering, we had a pretty robust conversation today, and this idea that we had actually talked about last Monday as a steering group, that having a more frequent cadence with the legislature, even to be able to share the highlights of that type of conversation, feels important. And again, with the wrong term, but policy or issue brief, I wondered what you thought about, and I don't mind taking a stab at this. I just hesitate. We're not going to have time to vet it for wordsmithing through everyone, but I did wonder about being able to take some of the key pieces of the conversation from today, and maybe it's just Peter testimony like the last time I came through House Ed, but is it worth putting down on paper a summary of our conversation?
Yes,
okay.
I think so, and to have you in again just to report on the continuing work of the commission.
Okay.
Yeah. At which point you could also prompt a conversation within our committee, at least as to a revised charge as well.
Okay. Yeah, Jennifer.
Well, and I wonder, just in an effort to save you work, because the minutes are rather detailed, if you could sort of have a cover email that sort of highlights sort of the big theme and then append the minutes for sort of the next level of detail. I mean, certainly knock yourself out, but I feel like you'd basically be rewriting the minutes in.
Right.
And so I don't know, Peter, I mean, how would that land on you?
I think it's a great point. Our minutes have been excellent, highly detailed. And I think I'd hate to redo that work. So I think we can take the time to read the minutes.
Okay.
And then I think having Megan in to testify as to sort of her impression of the overall conversation would be helpful.
Yeah, my sense, and I do appreciate that. It's sort of twofold. I did touch base or send a note to try to get today's recording before it's official and posted. so that I could pull out themes. Two things. One, I don't want to put undue pressure to get the minutes out. We usually have a little bit more time even for the unofficial minutes, which really depends more on when I'm able to come in. But also, so if they're available, I think what I would do is give them to the, or link them in whatever my comments are. I do think it will be useful, and I don't mind doing it, to theme, right? To pull, because meeting minutes are they're really good narrative. It also might be helpful for the commission to hear, like, here are the 2 or 3 themes coming out of the conversation. And I appreciate it. I don't mind doing that. I just think today's conversation was useful, and my only hesitation is making sure that I am just recounting the conversation. And being honest about, this is not a position statement yet of the commission. It is simply what we discussed. Okay. Not unlike, actually, Jennifer, what you and Tammy shared when you were summarizing your board's conversation. Okay. Was there anything else that the steering group was, I guess the only other thing before I ask that question is, if members of the steering group have any facilitation ideas for the 3rd, by the way, I did reach out to Lamoille South, so I will let folks know what they decide. I am open. I am sort of envisioning, because we'll be in person, a little bit more of a dynamic brainstorming, chart paper version of a conversation, but I am certainly open to suggestions on how to have the commission engage in the conversation, because I'm also sensitive to, we had a number of members who weren't there who will want to bring themselves up to speed. So
I was wondering about, giving so I was thinking about the topic of governance, and would it be good to sort of put a question on the table for people to react to, such as, to what level does scale through governance increase opportunities and services for students, and at the same time can help bend the cost curve of education?
Yep. I like that. I'm taking my own notes on that possible question. And I'm thinking about, well, which actually that question does get at it. I'm just thinking about the question that the commission engaged in around, what are we trying to achieve through adjustments to governance? So maybe there's some sub questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Peter,
Okay.
can you repeat what you said?
I just scribbled this down at the conclusion of our last meeting. To what level, or to what extent, does scale, which is, I think, an important term to use, through governance increase opportunities and services for students, and at the same time can contribute to bending the cost curve of education?
And I'm sorry, the last part was, and I'm just
and at the same time can bend the cost curve.
bend. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
That's helpful. There was the question too, a sub question about what gets in the way in our current structure. I think that would be helpful enough to get at the issues without stalling in, well, we don't really know if we need to make governance changes until we have these, 15 pieces of data. And that's a concern I have, is getting stuck in that. So, okay.
I was wondering too, and now I'm trying to find my notes. If we can go back to the agency, kind of like when we were in the fall, when we were saying that we wanted to see data on, and we had like a whole host of requests. As we start, looking at the proposal or anything else that the commission is considering, can we go to the agency and say, hey, crunch the numbers for us, under your policy, what would the cost savings be if we had 17 districts instead of 5? What would the cost savings be if we had, just so that now we can start comparing, the trade-offs of, one element of a proposal versus a different element. I don't understand.
I don't know if you could hear that. My watch just said that she doesn't understand what you just said, Jennifer. Sorry, Siri doesn't understand. I think that makes sense. And just given, I think it could be asked, as well as just the amount of folks who have come through House Ed have revealed that there is actually a fair amount of data at our fingertips, especially comparative data, not necessarily what you just asked for, which would really be applying a proposal to a different structure. But there's a fair amount of just available information about either districts who have gone down this route or governance. I'm just thinking of NCES and the different people who have come through, although I'm sensitive to the fact that all of those organizations are federally funded, and I hope that they will still be at our fingertips. Their websites seem to continue to show up for me, which is good. So I think, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I'm a little nervous about asking the AOE for some of this data because, one, they have a focus and a very particular plan, and I'm not sure the level to which they really want to contribute to that conversation. They have capacity issues as well. So I'll take a look and see what our nonpartisan Joint Fiscal Office has available for data.
Okay, yeah. Thanks.
Well, it's worth generating a list of data that we might want, because either it's going to be data that is available quickly enough for the commission, or it's going to be data that we bake into our recommendations to say this data doesn't exist yet, but here's what is needed. And that's still a useful thing, even if we don't have it. So I think that would be helpful.
And I think for the initial conversation, going data free might be okay, just to sort of put the concepts out there. Just to say, well, if we have larger central offices, then we can hire more people to provide professional development or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. Yep, agreed. I mean, and this is where there's been so much compelling either testimony or examples shared from members of the public that folks in the legislature are seeing, up to and including things that would get lost in a revised structure, or savings that wouldn't be realized, that it's somewhere in between wanting the commission to have that same level of information, but also not wanting to waste time repeating that information. So I think there's a way to do both effectively.
And I think it's very clear that probably everybody on the commission is paying close attention to all of the testimony going on in the various committees.
Agreed. Okay. So I'm going to, as I said, I'll report back as soon as I hear from Lamoille about just confirming our next dates. I probably will just send some thoughts about how to organize the agenda to the steering group, just because even input that you all give me individually will be helpful. And I'll probably do a similar update to the commission towards the end of the week with, pay attention to this testimony. Some folks are away next week, those who have vacations, but it still seems useful.
Also, for what it's worth, because you'd sort of mentioned that you were going to have a follow-up conversation in the steering committee, I am not available on March 10th. So
okay. Neither am I. So. Okay. All right.
Sticking to Mondays is a good idea.
Yeah. Everybody, we're all held captive by our calendar, which is probably a sad state of affairs, but it's also kind of everyone's reality. So, all right. I appreciate you all logging back on. For our two members of the public, we did say we would have a public comment session. So if either of you would like to share anything, now is the time.
I'm good.
Thanks, Alan.
Well, I'll move we adjourn then.
That
All right.
sounds
I'll second.
good. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, bye.